What do you think about the advent of Zoom and doing a national networking group? Would you do it virtual, or do you think this is something that eventually, when we get through with COVID, you got to be in person?
I am a bit of a dinosaur, but I consider myself to be an open-minded dinosaur.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think they still got eradicated anyway. Didn't they get blown off the planet too? But go ahead. Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. Alan, cheers.
Cheers.
Good to see you.
Couple of knuckleheads drinking beer, talking business.
That's just what
Wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
This is the only place to be.
It is.
And if you're listening in your car, don't drink beer. But if you're not, have one with us, man.
Yeah, we sound a lot better after you've had a couple.
Definitely better. All right, we covered a lot of ground, but one of our favorite topics and how we met.
It is how we met.
It is. Through networking. Networking. Because networking builds your net worthing? No.
Not really.
Got to kill that one.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Network builds your net worth. So, where do we start with that? I'm going to let you go first because I think you are one of the best at this.
There was actually a magazine article written about me as a networker.
Wow.
Yeah. And, it was in what was the Johns Creek magazine?
Johns Creek Lifestyle? Johns Creek. It wasn't networking today.
No. So we're about in dead air space. But it is amazing that given how shy I grew up, how much I ended up loving networking.
As an admitted introvert.
An admitted introvert, and I found out, so we're in Atlanta. It's a huge city. It's a very pro-business city. People are running around just killing each other, making gobs of money. But it's a big networking city. And, networking is kind of going back to the olden days of having a small town and a town square, except for you're doing it, at a chamber event or a BNI meeting. But it's a way to get your local business community. And when I had started my furniture store, I'd lived in that community for a long time. I knew neighbors, but it wasn't like if you grew up in a small town and you'd bump into people at the grocery store and you knew who they were. I mean, that never happened until I got involved in my community networking. And there were years where it drove my wife crazy because we'd go to Kroger and I'd talk to somebody in every aisle. And, you end up getting to know the mayor and all the city council people and things like that.
After you started your own business?
It was after I started my own business. But to me, networking, I'm very passionate about for a number of reasons, especially for somebody just starting up a small business. And I love the fact that you still network. Being as big of a business as you are now, you obviously find some value in it. And there's more value than just trying to drum up leads, I think. But when you're starting your business or you have a small business, and this may not be the proper marketing terms, but I call it passive marketing, which is you just drop the magazine ad or the TV spot or the radio spot or whatever it is, and then you hope and wait for the phone to ring. And then there's active marketing. So you could be cold calling depending on your business, or you could be networking. And I always like the fact that it isn't like you go out networking and next thing you know, you have a ton of business, but ultimately you develop this community of people within your community who are active referral people, because that's why they are at networking events. They want referrals, and so they should hopefully give referrals. But you end up developing this extended sales force for your business, but you never know what's going to happen. And when you go to a networking meeting, it just may be good therapy for you. But you may find a lead for an employee. You may find you need a new truck, and maybe there's somebody at your BNI meeting who has a truck for sale. You just never know what's going to come out of it, but something's going to happen every time you're out there.
And you enjoyed that even though you're an admitted introvert. Me as an extrovert, when I walk in, the very first thing that happens when I walk into a networking event and I don't know anybody, I immediately get a little nervous. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to break into this? How am I going to break in. But once I'm in,
As an extrovert, you're nervous.
I get a little bit nervous every time.
Wow.
If I don't know anybody, I'm like, okay. And then
It's because you're so excited, like there's so many people to meet.
No, I know. I'm actually a little nervous. I'm like, how do you break in? How do you get going? And then once it's in, I'm like a pinball machine. The pinball has gone, and I am all over the board. I am finding everybody. I'm bumping everybody. I'm hitting zeros. I'm getting the gangbusters.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, we're dinging all over the place. I love the networking, but I want to go into this a lot more. But my concept of networking prior to starting my own business was completely different.
Yes. What did you think it was?
So if you would have said, Chris, you're in corporate America, do you network? I would say, I don't know if I network. I'm going to have some mentors. My business. I do talk to other people at other companies still here and there. That's my network.
Yeah.
But when I started my own business, and I knew networking was important, getting involved with your chamber, which we've talked about a lot, then finding your tribe, whether it's in the BNI group or maybe another close contact networking group, or maybe it's just going out to some of these monthly meetings for the other people who are in these associations. Maybe it's the entrepreneurs organization, the EO groups. But when I first got into them, I said, oh my God, this is like a cult. This is weird.
Some of them are like a cult.
Right?
Yeah. It's
really weird. And in my book, I talked about the power of networking really helped me. And I actually even got Ivan Meissner, who started BNI, to endorse my book. And he read that. He said, I was a little nervous.
You wrote a book?
I did write a book.
What's the name of it again?
I'm glad you asked. It's called From the Zoo to the Wild. Let's thank our sponsors. You find it on Amazon.
Oh.
You can find it and read it on your Kindle. And you can also get it in paperback version. And if you want it signed, just let me know, and I'll make sure I get you a signed copy. That's From the Zoo to the Wild, your guide to entrepreneurial freedom and wealth.
Yes. Well, now that we're past that, okay. So
Ivan even endorsed my book because I said, man, this stuff is like cultish.
Yeah.
But once I got into it, and the other thing I realized too, and I want to see if you had the same perspective. Like you said, you lived in this community, but you didn't know who the mayor was. You didn't. I mean, maybe even didn't even vote for any of the city council at the time because you're too busy traveling around.
No, well, not only that. Yeah, you're right. You're busy, and on local politics, you don't know what any of them stand for. You just see signs.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then you start your own business, and all of a sudden your network is very localized. And I talked on another podcast it's called Generate Your Value with Andy McDowell and Zach Levy. And they talked about the same thing, is that when they came from their worlds and then started their own, they realized how few people they knew in their local community. Yet that's where they're going to build and generate their best value, is within their own local communities. And so their podcast, Generate Your Values, great, but we talked about that. But you get into it, it's just a little bit different. So if I would have asked you, Alan, what do you do in networking when you're an enterprise? What would your answer have been?
It was probably a lot like you. I don't know if I would have thought I'd have been a networker, but I was. As an example, at the time, I think I mentioned before, we were having a hard time recruiting, so I went and introduced myself to the University of Georgia and ended up working my way through the career department and offered to, speak to certain classes, the whole extern program with my store, that kind of a thing. That's networking. It's building relationships, valued business relationships that have a benefit both ways. And that's one of the things I think when somebody's thinking about networking, you can't just go to these events and think, I'm going to try to go get these people to buy from me.
That's a huge point.
Yeah.
You just said, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get them to buy from me. That's not networking.
No.
In fact, the whole BNI mantra is givers gain. And isn't it funny when you see a dyed-in-the-wool salesman comes in,
the
networking, he's got
the old blue.
He's got this blue suit.
Yeah.
He's selling printing materials.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for 50 years. And he comes up and introduces himself and says, hey, do you need some printing? And that's the first question you're going to ask me.
Right.
Let me tell you about my new glossy. No.
I call those leg humpers. And you gotta be careful, because you go to these networking events and you'll have people like that, or they're selling some sort of nutritional supplement, which may be great, but they get your card, and next thing you know, you've got all these emails and phone calls trying to sell you stuff. And that's not what networking is all about.
It's not at all. And you've had that person, like I said, I was walking around like a pinball
the
machine.
Little dog. You just got to shake him off.
Just shake him off.
Yeah.
Or the person who has like the business card ejector. Hey, how you doing? Here's my business card. Here's my business card.
Ow.
Here's my business card. Whew. I'm like, does it come out of your arm like automatically every time you switch? What do you do with those cards?
Yeah.
right into the old filing cabinet. No, thank you. Not interested. So you have to learn that networking really is about getting to know somebody and then eventually kind of liking them. But once you trust them, then you'll start doing some business with them.
That's absolutely right. And you had talked about the Chamber of Commerce, and I think it's almost an insult to a local community if you plop a business in it, even if you're working from home and not getting involved in your local chamber, because those are people who actually care about business, and all the members in there want to do business with other chamber members. So there's sort of a built-in. Now, the business I had when I had my store, people who were going to the leads exchanges and the networking meetings, they're not my end customer. I mean, I had a high-end store where people were dropping some serious money, but it was still important for me to build a reputation in the community so that people would know who I am, and a prospective customer would see that I'm involved in the chamber based on social media or maybe a logo on my website. That's a little bit of a validation there. But ultimately, everybody that you meet knows somebody who might help your business. And so that's how I looked at it, was I want to make friends with everybody that I possibly can within my business community who are connection oriented. And when it came down to it, I never expected you to buy furniture from me, but you might know the kinds of people who could refer customers to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I worked on.
So the leads part that's obviously a direct benefit. If you go in there trying to be the leg humper, as you mentioned, or the
there's no better description.
There is no better description.
That's a little white, tiny dog that's
and
just
annoying
right on your ankle.
And not only do I not want to know you, but I'm definitely not going to like you because you didn't even want to find out who I was before you tried to sell me your printing stuff. But when you get into those networking groups, the leads and the referrals are keeping you top of mind and building your sales force, if you will,
right.
Is big. The other benefit I got was, well, one, it definitely scratches my ego because I love talking with people. I love doing all that stuff. But the third benefit is I get to meet other people who may be further and more mature in their business than I am. And you always pick up a few little gold nuggets from somebody else.
Yeah.
If you're out there listening and you're really intently listening at a networking event, you just say, yeah, it's really hard finding guys. Well, have you thought about going to UGA? Or in my case, did you think about going to the local technical college?
Jobs of free advice.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, I love talking about that. And so that's been great. So I think the other phrase you could hear is meetups. I've heard that phrase used.
There's so many different ways you can do it. I mean, there's all the service clubs, Lions, Rotary.
Did you ever do Rotary?
Kiwanis. No, I actually got asked to do Rotary a number of times, and there were 2 Rotary clubs near my store, and I knew virtually everybody in those Rotary clubs. But I told them, I said, at the time, my involvement in networking is I really need to get. Now, I'm not going to just go in and be a leg humper. I really kind of held the Rotary Club to a higher standard. I mean, they're really people who've they should be titans of the community who've kind of become successful. They get together at the Rotary Club and they do community service projects.
Yep.
And I'm a little weird that way. I mean, I remember early on in my corporate days, and I got a big promotion and I went into my new office. It was my first corporate move. And there was this really nasty desk and a really nasty credenza. It was kind of a blonde oak. It just was horrible. And they told me, they're like, no, of course you can get some new furniture. And I'm like, I'll get new furniture when I deserve it.
Yeah.
And that was my little thing. When I felt like I'd done a good enough job to deserve the new furniture, I would get it. I never got the furniture. This is the way my mind works. So I held Rotary to this higher standard. But you've got the service clubs, then you have just pure networking, and then you have the chamber. How would you have a city like Atlanta? I mean, you could literally network every day of the week, and it could take more time than the benefit that you're going to get. So how would you advise somebody how to drill down on strategically networking?
I love that question. I would say first you start with the chamber and you start to see if that's your tribe. Is that going to be people that you are getting to know, getting to like, and eventually will trust? And then also try a close contact networking group. BNI is solid. They have a great system. It's a lunch or it's a breakfast time. You get involved with those, and then you start looking in your industry and see if there's some monthly meetings. And in the beginning, you're going to go to a lot and you're going to waste some time. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it. You're going to go, in my case, I'm going to go down to downtown Atlanta and go to a Metro Chamber event and realize that I was sitting there going elbow to elbow with people from Coca-Cola and UPS. I'm like, yes, but no, because yes, they could refer me, but no, I really don't. I'm trying to find my local guys in my fishbowl and work my way out of that fishbowl into a bigger one. So I would say you have to try it.
You're in a good size aquarium now.
Yeah, I am. I think I'm a little bit bigger than the fishbowl. And that's why, that's why I've outgrown our chamber at this point. I'm not as involved.
Yeah.
That being said, I am very involved in 2 groups right now where I'm on the board of one and I'm part of the leadership committee in the other. And if you're going to do it all the way in. Get involved and do something with it because you're going to give, but you're going to get. And that comes back to networking / volunteering. Mm. Networking means you're going to get money, right? Networking means you're going to get jobs. You're going to get leads. You're going to grow your business. But if you look at it like that, you're missing the boat because you can also get involved, volunteer, learn some things. And in my case, I learned a lot about financial health in a business and finding a good bookkeeper to help me fix some of the things that had happened as I had grown. So that's what my biggest recommendation would be that.
Well, and you hit a really good point because I'll bet you can say the same thing. Almost every vendor that you need for your business, you probably have ultimately gotten through your networking. It could be merchant services, it could be your phone system, it could be your business coach. It goes on down the line.
Because you know, like, and trust and let them come in your circle.
So the know, like, and trust comes from what you just said, where I believe that you should pick no more than 3 things. And there's a million that you can pick from. A million might be exaggerating, but not by much. In Atlanta, there's so much networking opportunity to make your head spin. And there's even, like you said, industry specific, there's young professionals, all kinds of things. But the first one has to be your chamber. I think you need to respect your community. And there are people, so first of all, the chamber has resources to actually help you as a business if it's a good chamber. And they are about economic development, but you kind of learn about what's going on in the community, what they're expecting to do in the community. You might have leadership opportunities, but they will have networking events. And sometimes it's just as simple as once a month doing a business after hours and having a beer and just saying hey to your friends after a while. But it's this group of people who will ultimately care about your business. But by picking 3, then you can focus on those 3 and you have to be committed because I'm sure you know that once you're into a networking group and a new person comes in and you see him going around like a vacuum cleaner sucking up business cards and then you're never going to see him again, the group is going to purge them.
The group will purge them if they don't have the same level of professionalism that they all have and built into their networking group, and you'll know it right away.
Yeah.
If there's a bunch of leg humpers running around in there or business card ejectors running around in there, you're going to know maybe that's not my crew. I'm going to go find a different one.
And there's always a few of those in just about every group, but I think you go with your chamber. If there's an industry-specific one, that can be really exciting. I mean, things can really happen once they learn to trust you.
What do you think about the advent of Zoom and doing a national networking group? Would you do it virtual, or do you think this is something that eventually, when we get through with COVID, you got to be in person?
I am a bit of a dinosaur, but I consider myself to be an open-minded dinosaur.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think they still got eradicated anyway. Didn't they get blown off the planet too? But go ahead, open-minded dinosaur.
So I appreciate the technology, and when COVID hit, Zoom was all we had. But I actually got invited to join a networking group, and I'm in real estate. And my partner and I, it's a little bit like a speakeasy. We do not advertise. You look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see I'm a commercial agent, but we've got a lot of repeat and referral business. It's almost 100%, so we don't need to advertise. But I do want to be in a networking group, and I'm pretty selective, but somebody I respect and admire tremendously has his own closed group, and it's a high-level banker, and it's a mergers and acquisitions guy, and it's people that I think, okay, they could potentially refer me. Well, then I say, yeah, that sounds great, and then COVID breaks out. So we meet on Zoom, and you just can't. I feel bad for salespeople that have to sell on Zoom. You can't get that personal connection. It's better than nothing, but right now there's enough people meeting in person that I'd take the in-person over Zoom a million times over.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. This is not going to last for long. Zoom will always hold a place because I do like it better. Like I'm getting ready to talk to a guy who's in the industry out in Arizona, but we're going to do it over Zoom, so I at least get to see him face to face.
That's better than a phone call.
Way better than a phone call because you got to hold yourself up and you're paying attention and the whole thing. So I agree with you. I think Zoom, it had its time during this. It just wasn't the same. And you're right. I know a company that switched all their sales guys to 100% Zoom call to try to close business. And here in Georgia, we were closed from March to maybe like the middle of May. And then we opened back up or started to. Those guys aren't even thinking about doing a Zoom call anymore. No, it is all got to be face to face. If I'm going to sell you on my $10,000 to $15,000 solution, I'm going to be right there looking you eyeball to eyeball.
Oh man, and it makes you wonder what the psychology is behind all that, because there's just something about, I don't know, is it smell? What is it? Is it the body language that you're getting? I mean, you don't build a relationship over Zoom like you do in person.
Right. If you listen to this podcast, you don't get a chance to see us. You don't see our personalities. You don't see my hands flying around all the time. You don't see me falling out of my chair, but you can hear our voices. Yeah. You think you're getting to know us, but there is something about that. And we talked about this. I talk about this in my business. The most personal communication level is face-to-face, one-on-one. Yeah. Second one would be a Zoom call, a video conference. Third one would be a phone call. Then it starts to drop off very quickly.
Yeah, email,
text messages. Then the social media is all out there. Isn't it amazing how tone can be inflected or interpreted through a text message?
Yeah.
Without any capitals, you just said, sure. You didn't have to be snarky about that, Chris. Right. I just said, sure. I didn't say.
Now you got to go sure smiley face so that they know that you're really happy about it.
You know that I'm really trying.
Yeah. So one of the things that I can recommend to people when they're, well, first of all, if you're new to networking, just understand, let's say you're somebody like me. Well, even you say you're an extrovert and you would get nervous.
Yeah, I did.
You walk into those events, absolutely 100% of the people there are there to network. So I don't care how shy you are. This is not like going to a high school dance. This is people who want to get to know you. And they're probably just as uncomfortable as you are. So all you need to do is just go up and stick your hand out and say, hi, I'm Alan. Hi, I'm Chris. And that's it. And the conversation.
Is that all you have to do? Is that all you have to do? Just go ahead and stick your hand out and say, hey, I'm Chris. See, there you go. Now you're off.
You got a couple of pieces of shrimp in your mouth and you got a beer in your hand. You're like, hi, I'm Chris. You know.
Is that what happened to me the first time? I think that's why they all ran away.
Well, that's why I like you.
I had my fly down too.
No, probably that's not why I like you.
All right.
But no, and that's what they're there for. And what you're trying to do is meet as many people as you can. But we always used to say, come out with 3 business cards. And it's not 3 random business cards. It's 3 business cards of somebody that you think would be worth spending a cup of coffee with. And then try to set up a cup of coffee to get to know them. And what I always did, and when I used to lead the Johns Creek Business Association, if you walked in as a new guy, I'm like, tell me about your business, who you're trying to meet. And sometimes people don't even know. Because you may go, well, I'm looking for people who need their house fixed. And I'm like, that may be anybody in this room, but who do you need to meet? Who can actually refer lots of people who need their houses fixed? Like a realtor. Do you need to meet realtors, Chris? Yeah. And I'm like, come here. And I grab you and I take you over and I'm like,
You did a great job of that.
Yeah.
So, and if you are good at networking, you're listening to this podcast, remember that when you're at your next networking event, and that person shows up at the table to just walks in, deer in the headlights, and they look nervous as hell.
Looking at their shoes.
Go up there and do that. Be that person that says, hey, who are you here to meet, man?
Yeah, let me help you out.
Hey, look, I'm going to brag you over here, and I'm going to plop into these guys, and adios, maybe we'll talk later.
It's really fun. And guess what? That person suddenly thinks you're a god.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you should do that. I agree with you. Next thing, so you go to networking, you meet somebody. You got to know, like, and trust them. And you hit on this, and I want to hit this a little bit more. Let's go grab a cup of coffee. It's just a cup of coffee. That's a great way to have a one-on-one meeting with somebody. So you come out of these networking events, and you do go get a cup of coffee. What have been some of the best ways you've had a good cup of coffee, if you know what I mean? That was
You're talking about a cup of coffee, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Let's go down that. Hey, it's just a cup of coffee.
So for me, I wanted to have cups of coffee with people who I felt like were influencers in that networking group and who possibly could have some sort of dotted line relationship with my business. But really it was back to the influencers, because you really never know who's a great referral source. You may meet somebody who should be like, what's the perfect referral source for your business right now?
Let's go ahead and thank one of our sponsors. Are you in the home service business and train your employees to represent your company in the right way when they're taking care of customers? Are they providing a 110% customer experience? If you aren't getting those rave reviews that you expect or those repeat customers that you crave, then you need to get the homeserviceinstitute.com training programs. These training programs talk the language of your technician and help them figure out how to align your goals with their wants. Go ahead and check out the homeserviceinstitute.com and all of their training modules, and they will turn your employees into 110% customer experience providers. That's the homeserviceinstitute.com. And now let's get back to listening to what the guys have to say. Well, right now, my perfect referral source for me is a real estate agent, and is somebody who is influential in the community.
And that person exists, and you've met them, and that person may be the worst referral person ever. Whereas you have somebody else who may also be a real estate agent, may not be as influential, but every time they get a chance, they're going to refer you. And so you got to kind of sift your way through that. And that's where these cups of coffee come from. I may do a little unorthodox, but it kind of goes back to the way I used to do sales back in my big shot days. And I would get some big shot out on the golf course at Sugarloaf, and they're expecting me to sell. And I never did. It was almost kind of reverse psychology. I just made sure they had a great freaking time playing golf. And I knew, and maybe it's the psych minor in me, somewhere on the back nine, if I never once mentioned business, they would just go, so. And then we would roll into a business conversation at their bidding. And if I liked the guy or the girl and we ended up having a good business conversation, it might lead into drinks, might lead into dinner, and we would do business. If the person was a dick, then it would be like, all right, well, it's good playing golf with you, and I'll see you again. So that's how we do it. So back to the coffee, I find myself to be very interested in other people anyway. And so I know I'm not going to get that person across the way to buy something from me today. I just want to get to know their business, what's been their involvement in the chamber. Do they have any advice for me because I'm new to this group? What's the best way to get plugged in? There's lots of stuff like that. I'm getting to know this person.
Right. And that's huge.
And if you really truly focus on that, in the back of your mind, you're doing this to grow your business. But if that's not your number one priority, it's such a counterintuitive thing. But the less you focus on me, the more me gets focused on.
I can't agree more. I have some best practices for me and my cups of coffee. First is I just confirm via text message that we're still good. Because
simple little thing that, hey, common sense.
Let you know I'm on my way over. I'm going to take time out of my day to meet you. I got stood up by one guy. I had missed an estimate appointment to network with this person. I drive 30 minutes over to this point because he wanted to meet halfway between where we both lived. Never heard from the guy. Didn't have his cell phone. I had his email. He never answered his email. And I got the, I'm sorry I missed you, Chris, at 2:00 in the afternoon. Something came up.
How'd that go?
I'm like, go screw yourself. Yeah, you think I'm ever going to, one, refer you? Two, do you really think I ever think your business, you probably have failed by now because I've erased you from everything on my phone anyway. This happened years ago.
Yeah, you're dead to me.
I'm like, are you joking? Mm-hmm. I mean, did you really just do that to me?
Yeah.
I mean, you know who you're talking to here? I was pissed. I was like, all right, dude, that's enough of that shit. I mean, you're going to waste my time. But I confirm. And then when I get there, I just do a time check. Hey, we're here grabbing a cup of coffee. Just want to make sure, we were supposed to be here for an hour. I've even done 30 minutes. I said, just a time check, just so we don't get caught off guard. And I usually time box it. Say, hey, we got a minute. And I'll jump right in because I'm just like you. I just want to know more about you. And I just did this morning with a new person that came into our networking groups. And I met with two of them. And they wanted to launch right into their CPA business. I said, no, back up. Where were you guys both born?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you mean, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I want to know more about you first. And then so I learned that they both came from the same town in India. They both had arranged marriages, but it wasn't the arranged marriages that their parents had. They got to know the person first, and then it's
Spicy.
okay.
Yeah.
Do I know what they do? Yeah, they're a CPA and bookkeeping, and and welcome to every other person out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a handyman. You're a commercial real estate agent, or you're a commercial broker. Okay, what? But tell me more about you. Oh my God. And then we found out we had some common interests. We got a master's in mechanical engineering. Oh, that's funny. My husband is an industrial engineer, got his master's. He went to South Carolina, but he also went to USC, Southern California. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I remember that. Oh, by the way, they're also bookkeepers and tax people.
All right.
But what do you remember walking away? That stuff. And that's where you're getting to know, like, and trust. And if you go in there and the very first thing you do is pull out your samples and all your cards and go, let me tell you about me and everything I'm trying to sell you.
It's not a sales call. Networking is not a sales call.
Right.
Yeah, it's building your network. So what I looked for were connectors, and I'll use a word called mavens. Have you heard this?
Mavens?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know who Malcolm Gladwell is?
I do.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, you do like him, and you want him to come on the show.
I do. I'm not sure if we'll get Malcolm, and I'd probably have another restraining order, just like I did with Artie or Ronnie at Big Green Egg. But I love his books. They're so interesting from a psychology standpoint, but they all have business applications. But I just love the story of the tipping point. The very first story in the tipping point, I don't know if you remember, is about Paul Revere and his famous ride that most American school kids learned at some point.
Right.
And the whole British were coming, and as a result, we mobilized and we ended up beating the British, and we are the country we are today because Paul Revere kind of got us going. What most people don't know, and I didn't know until I read this book, is that two writers went in two different directions. One was Paul Revere, and the other was a guy whose name is almost lost to history. The exact same message, the exact same urgency, and nobody reacted to the other guy. The people that reacted were to Paul Revere. Why? Because he was known in the community and he was actively involved in his community. And so when Paul Revere said something, they mobilized. When Joe Schmo was running, in the middle of the night, they're like, shut up, I'm trying to sleep, that kind of thing. And nothing happened. And so Malcolm talks about the fact that there are people in the community who are natural connectors. I am one of them. I get some sort of weird little thrill if you say something and I go, hey, I know a guy and that can do that. And I put the two of you together and it ends up being a great relationship. It drives my wife crazy because I had made other people gazillions of dollars doing that. And she's like, why can't you do that for us? But I just like connecting.
Why can't you do that for me?
And then mavens, and this is Malcolm Gladwell's term, are those people in the community who, if they say, oh, you got to eat at this restaurant, you're probably making a reservation for that weekend. Oh, you need to use this guy. Or, they're just the people, it's the lady in the tennis community who just sort of, everybody follows what she does.
Right.
And so I was looking for those people. I still was making friends with everybody, but I'm looking for the connectors. Because like you said, a realtor is your best referral source.
Yeah.
But there's a gazillion realtors out there. But, there's the realtor at the networking event who's just hammering all the donuts and has the, powdered sugar all over their shirt, and they're there because they've got nothing to do. And then the realtors who are like super busy may not even be at the networking event. So you kind of got to find that happy medium. And one of the things that I tried to do, and this was actually a piece of advice from a friend of mine, that little circle of influence that we try to surround ourselves with, very sharp business guy. And he said, Alan, think about this. If you had 20 people who had the ability to refer you, who actively referred you, what would that mean to your business? And I'm like, I wouldn't need to market anymore. And he's like, yeah. So who are they? Find them. And what I ended up doing was coming up a list of 20. And it would be, to your point, let's say 10 realtors, 5 builders, 5 insurance agents, 1 property manager, whatever, adds up to 20. And I would look for names to fill that 20.
That's good.
And then ultimately, if those people who were on that list weren't referring me over time, I mentally replaced them on that list with somebody else. And I was always working to get that perfect 20.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a little scientist going on behind you. You're like doing the mad scientist in the background. I'm going to network like this. So you are now out. You'll get to come in to my little tea party.
Strategic.
So you do have to be strategic, and that's where I was going. Is while it sounds a little concocted, a little convoluted, a little cult-like, you do have to be a little bit strategic in your follow-ups after networking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a cup of coffee. Get to know them. Give them a chance to tell you about them, but also let them know who you are. Tell them what your best referral is. Do that time check. Be respectful of their time. And then keep going with that, because that's the best part, is that keeping going. Finding them that one referral before you leave. Like, you know what, I got an idea for you. So, but you really can't, because what I'm getting to is you got to know, like, and trust. I can refer. Like, if you called me and say, Chris, do you know somebody who does concrete? I'd be like, yeah, I've got 3 guys. Here, go ahead and call these 3. Well, I didn't give any one of those 3 the ringing endorsement. If you called and said, Chris, give me your glass guy. Oh, I got the perfect glass guy. Just used him. You got to use that one. I just referred that person with endorsement, because I do know, like, and trust their business, and I know that they'll do it the right way. So you learn that, and you're strategic. And then I don't trumpet it. I don't raise my hand and go, the British are coming, the British are coming. I don't sit there and go, oh, I gave you a referral, I gave you a referral, I gave you a referral. I'm like, hey, just mention that, use my name. It'll help you a little bit. And so you'll say, hey, Chris just gave me your name. And they'll go, oh, hey. And then what's interesting there is that when you give like that, you're going to get that call back into your office saying, hey, these guys want you to come out and take a look at a bathroom remodel. And all you did was refer out one little thing about glass. So that's also strategic in the networking part. Again, I'm not expecting that. I'm not expecting it when I volunteer in a group. But if you do that one-on-one meeting with them and you start to build that out, it really starts to help.
Yeah, and you really do need to be wired on how can I help this person, if assuming it's somebody that you want to continue a relationship with. And I found myself, there were times where, so for example, there's a lot of financial planners in most of these network groups.
And every time there's got to be even 5 of them.
And I am a referral freak. I'm a customer service freak. I'm a referral freak. I love making referrals. I do it all the time. But I don't often have financial conversations with my friends. I actually, there's the people who are like, oh, you bought that? How much did you pay for it? I find that rude. I don't have financial conversations with my friends. So I will tell these people, look, I am a big networker. I'm a big referral guy. Odds are I'm not going to be able to refer you a client. And you may have to say, I have a really trusted financial planner. They're going to get my referrals. Let's think of another way that I can help you. And who else do you need to meet? And then find out who their ideal referral sources are.
Right.
Because you may not know the end user, but you may know.
You just hit the secondary move. Again, secondary to being strategic. You're right. Not many people ask the handyman if he knows a good financial planner. Because they're pretty sure I'm broke anyway.
And you made a lot of bad choices.
I've always made bad choices. But you're right, asking that another question. Well, tell me, who are your best referral sources? And maybe I can introduce you to somebody. Oh, well. Or, you know what, there's a group that's meeting in 2 Thursdays from now. Why don't you go to check that group out and see if that's a good fit for you? There are always ways you can help people in that 1 hour or that 30-minute cup of coffee. Because it's just a cup of coffee.
Well, somebody once told me, if you've been involved in a networking group for a long time and you're not getting any referrals, it's either one of 2 things. 1, they still don't really understand what it is that you do. And 2, it's that they don't trust you. And there was a time I was in a closed networking group that I really never expected much from. But there were people I really liked, and they kind of became my little board of directors, like we've talked about. But periodically we would do that thing where, hey, it's your turn to kind of dominate the conversation. You can talk about your business. And I led with that. And I said, somebody once told me, if you're not getting referrals from a group, it's either that they don't know what you do, and I'm pretty sure that you know what I do, or it's that you don't trust me. But I also think you trust me. And if you don't, I'm giving you permission to tell me. If there's something about me.
Well, that's pretty open.
Yeah, it was pretty open. I go, but I had a really specific niche kind of business.
Yeah, it was.
And it was. I find it very easy to refer, because some people are like, yeah, nobody has asked me, do you know anybody that does high-end furniture and interior design? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not how it works. And as a matter of fact, I had a friend of mine who started a basement remodeling business, high-end, and I had referred him 8 deals. This was before you got into that.
Okay.
And
you're lucky because I was about to say, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
this podcast is over.
I'm off your 20. And finally, I called him up and I'm like, dude, where's the love? I said it just that. And he goes, what do you mean? And I'm like, I've sent you 8 deals. And I know you've closed a couple of them because, referrals, you tend to close at a much higher percentage. But his these were big jobs. And he's like, yeah, I really want to refer you. It just never comes up. And I'm like, every single person that's doing a full-blown basement remodel is going to buy a whole ton of furniture.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, it just never comes up. I go, do you think basement remodeling comes up in my business? It's a snippet of something that somebody says. And I jump on it. And I'm like, oh, you're getting your basement remodeled. Do you have a guy that you like? If no, oh, he's drunk. Let me show you some photos. And then next thing you know, so you sometimes have to teach people. So back to this group where I had the time to talk to him and said, either you don't trust me or you don't know what I do. If you don't trust me, tell me. And I'm good with it. I don't think that's it. I said, but maybe you don't know all the things that are a good referral to me. Because you're just thinking, okay, if somebody asks me, hey, where can I spend a ton of money on furniture? We'll go see Alan. And I know you would do that. Now, but I said, there's other ways that you can help me. And I said, for example, at the time, my little store, I'd actually called Bloomington, Indiana, and gotten a hold of State Farm, and I became on State Farm's preferred vendor list. So if your house burnt down, you have 75% of the home value in contents replacement. That's furniture. And I pitched them that, a tragic thing happened, and it's going to be a real pain to put this person's life back together. I can actually make it better by having a licensed interior designer make their new house better than the one they just lost. It was a pretty strong pitch. They said yes. So I'm waiting for homes to burn down at Johns Creek. But what I said to this group was, I need to know State Farm agents. They need to know that. And every single person in that room, next thing you know, I'm having cups of coffee with State Farm agents right and left.
Solid.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to work the group that I had, because they wanted to help me. And everybody in a networking environment, for the most part, other than the leg humpers and the card dispenser guys, they want to help. You just have to help them help you.
Yeah, you got to make it easy for them to help.
Right.
Don't make it too hard for me, and I'll help you. If you make it really hard for me, and make me pull out all this information from you, and you want me to go out and give you my whole Rolodex, or you want me to go out and give you 25 contacts off LinkedIn, don't make me do that.
No, don't do that.
But if you gave me, which I had a great guy did this, he said, Chris, I noticed that these 4 people are on your LinkedIn profile and are connections with you. Would you mind making a 3-way introduction to me? And here's what I'd ask you to say. I'm like, oh, that's genius. Of course I'll do that. Because I really do know, like, and trust this guy. It's AOT. They do copier and sales here locally, and everybody needs a copier. They all have them. It's a commodity industry, but they set themselves apart with better service.
What's the guy's name?
Phil Van Gelder.
Like the best looking guy out there, and I say that with all due masculinity.
Right, because it is just a cup of coffee. Yeah, he is. He is a very... He actually has that perfect family.
Yeah.
He's great looking.
I know.
She's
I'm like,
great
where did I go
the
wrong
3
in
kids
life when you meet
beautiful.
Phil?
Yeah. No, he's just a good person too.
Yeah.
So when he did that, he made it really easy. I'm like, oh yeah, man, shit, yeah, I'll help you out. Let's do that. But the person says, hey, could you give me your, no, don't make it hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'll help you. I want to, but I'm also going to go back as soon as we're done talking, I get in my truck and start running away. I'm back to Chris and the Trusted Toolbox and the Home Service Institute or whatever Chris is doing.
Well, and that kind of goes to the whole line of the elevator pitch. Because, to anybody listening and you say, okay, I'm going to listen to Chris and Alan, even though they're into their 4th beer now, I'm going to join the chamber. And you go to the first chamber and you're like, well, this sucked. Nothing happened. So you really need to go 3 or 5 times before you would really expect any kind of a ripple. And networking is definitely throwing a pebble in a pond, and it's the ripple effect. It's not the person that you meet, it's the person they know, and the person, and a year from now, you're going to be meeting a 4th generation person that you don't even know how that chain originally started. But you're at the networking event and you say, hey, I'm Chris. And they say, hey, I'm Susie. You've got to have that elevator pitch, which everybody knows what it is. But just in case you don't, it's how do you describe your business in an interesting way basically in the time that if you were to get on an elevator and get off on your floor. And we're not talking New York City.
Right.
Yeah. So it's 3-4 sentences. Who you are, what you do, what makes you special. And so for me, it would be, I'm Alan White. I'm with Keller Williams Commercial, and my partner and I specialize in finding the perfect property for people. But what our sweet spot is finding investments between $2 and $5 million. A perfect referral for me would be this.
Yep.
Something like that. Now, what they heard was Alan, blah, 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 real estate, blah, 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 blah. And then maybe the second time they might catch the commercial part. And what I'm going to recommend is you make it as tight as you can and make it as specific as you can. Because if you go out there and go, I just meet anybody or, anybody, if you're too broad, then they can't help you.
Right. You can't be broad. You've got to be specific, because all they hear is maybe your first name, and then blah, 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 and then maybe what you do, maybe.
Yeah.
And then what I just listened to you, and I heard between $2 and $5 million of investable assets. I'm like, oh, okay.
And that isn't even quite what I said, right?
Right.
That's it. And this is you and me who know each other.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is just get enough of it to stick to where the second they go, broken something at my house, Chris.
Yes.
And it may not be something that you do. It doesn't matter. But even if you're like super specific, so we'll help just about anybody that comes our way. We have a very specific niche. And if I stay specific on what I want, it might help people who are paying attention actually qualify the leads they send to me. But it's not going to prevent somebody from sending me a lead. They're going to go, blah, 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 real estate. Oh, you need to meet Alan, and then let me sort it out. So you're not, by being specific, you're not going to eliminate. You don't need to tell them everything.
That's exactly right. Because if I come up there and go, I'm Chris Lalamy and I have a handyman company, we just got done doing a Murphy bed for a person in the basement. It doesn't mean I just took out everything else possibly in your house.
Right.
How often have I got up there? I'm Chris Lalamy, and we do everything from drywall repair to woodwork repair to da-da-da-da. And you know what they asked me right after that? Well, do y'all fix trim on the house? I'm like, that was woodwork repair. Okay, blah, 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 blah.
I did that to you. You fixed some stuff on my house the other day, and I still wasn't sure if you did it, but I asked.
Hey, do you guys work on the chimney stuff? I'm like, yeah, Alan, we were just at your house working on everything but the chimney.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what home repair.
But everybody does that, because if you say one specific thing and it's interesting, then they'll key and go, oh, hey, I got a question for you. Shoot, do you guys do bathroom remodel? I just said I did it. But that's what I'm interested in. Okay.
And both you and I are kind of wordy, a little windy.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst thing in the world is if you're in a networking event, one where they hand everybody 20 seconds at the mic, is the mic grabber.
The mic grabber. That's what I was waiting for. That is so big, because while we're wordy, I'm also very respectful that I know that I only get to hold your attention for 20 seconds. And if you're listening to this podcast and you've hung with us for the last 30, 40 minutes, thank you for doing that. But in those networking events, it's blah, blah, blah. I'm listening for one thing, and they're still going to come up and ask you a question. Yeah. But the mic grabber. Well, it all started
right
with a small sharecropper.
And we do this, and we do this, and we do this. And
so I'm looking for anybody who has a house, who maybe owns a home, maybe somebody owns a home. I'm a great referral for anybody who needs a house or is in a house or has ever been in a house. Or you mean like everybody? Yes. And let me continue. No, please don't. Please put the mic down. But come on, you've done harm now. You're harming people.
Yeah, and at that point, everybody in the room hates you.
Right. You're getting the Jack Benny treatment. Rochester.
Oh my God, that's a really old poll.
I know.
Yeah, but I like it.
But you know what? Because I'm thinking that a lot of people listening to this will never have heard of Jack Benny. But you got your hand on your cheek and you're looking around going, why am I here? This guy needs to shut up.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Needles in my eyes. Oh my God. I don't care what he's saying. He could be giving me $1 million. I don't want to know.
I don't need any printing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, those people are, and it's amazing. It's almost like some sort of psychotic thing where they're just grabbing the mic with both fists and they won't give it up. And the person who's hosting, when I used to be the president, I'm like, okay, thanks.
Right, and you can't play the music. All right, give them the hook. No, they won't give it up. I find a lot of those people that is a lot of nerves.
Yeah.
And it's not them. They didn't mean to do it. I've actually seen it, and where
They seize up.
and they just keep going. They're introverted, but they got the mic, and all they have to do is just diarrhea of the mouth, and they just keep rolling. And what do we say here in the South when they start doing that?
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. Translation: go fuck yourself.
Shut your pie hole.
Shut that up. Nobody wants to hear you anymore.
Do you reward people that refer you?
That is a great question. I have not rewarded them monetarily because givers gain. I try to get them back with a referral back. And what I have found too is that I have found people who get insulted when you go to reward them. They're like, hey, thank you so much. Here's a $25 Home Depot card. Hey, thank you so much. Here's a $25 QT card. And what the people say is, no, I referred you because I knew you'd take good care of them. Just give that to the customer. Give them the break. And
really?
Yeah.
Because I really would like the Home Depot card.
You would have taken it?
Well, really, a bottle
it.
of bourbon would.
I do it to the people who I know are going to be genuine, so that's why you didn't get one. Oh my God, he didn't just say it. No, of course
that.
No, I did. I had a lot of people when I tried to do that incentive program. Almost everybody said, "No, I referred you because I knew you'd take good care of them. Just give them a break."
I don't mean an incentive program because I did the same thing when I had my furniture store. I had this incentive program for realtors. Did nothing. And then I finally figured out a way to actually make it work for me, but it wasn't an incentive program. But I'm talking about just somebody sends you a really good referral. And let's say it's in your BNI group. So the first thing you probably do is next week you go up there and go, hey, by the way, I want to...
Public praise.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this referral. That guy did great. And they now feel good because they were able to give to you. But if you cheapen it up and say, and I want to give you this in front of everybody, I've seen it blow up in people's faces.
Yeah, but I also like the fact that, hey, when you're walking out of the BNI meeting, come on over to my truck and you got a little bottle of Bullet or something in there if you know that that's appropriate. And just say, I really appreciate what you did. It means a lot to me in my business that you counted on me that much. It was a really good job. I want, just every time you have a sip of this, just remember how much I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think then all of a sudden that guy's going to be like secretly going, oh, how do I find Chris another? I need more bourbon.
That whole thing is going to open up, which will be a whole other episode, is how do you close the transaction and get repeat customers, thank them for the repeat work, and then thank them for the referrals that they're about to give you.
Yeah.
And so we've thought about that too, and have not implemented anything that's been of any value yet for us.
Okay.
Only because I've been burned by, basically getting called out for doing something like, they're like, no, don't give me this. Give it to the client. And I was, but okay. I felt bad.
Really?
Yeah, I got really rejected. It really, obviously you can tell, it really sullied me on this whole thing of giving somebody something.
I thought you had a thick skin.
Well, I do, but it also plays to my cheapness. It's like, well, I'm not going to give away more money anyway. Well, Ellen, I think we've talked a lot about networking. Clearly a passionate topic for both of us. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't pick up some of the big points that we were dropping, we're going to have to go do it one more time. So let's poop some gold nuggets for everybody right now.
Gold nuggets, just like it says in my phone on my calendar invite from you. Thanks, Chris.
That's right.
Yeah.
So your big points are?
Find 3. One of them has to be the chamber. One of them has to be, you call it the tribe.
Your tribe, absolutely.
Which is the
either people in your industry or people who are like-minded in something you're doing that they start to think and act like you, and it's that same moving group.
And I would say you don't have to find 3, but no more than 3, because the 3 you need to really invest in. Have your elevator speech ready. It's just your way to introduce yourself to people in a way that they can easily digest. Start going the coffee circuit. I did it once a week.
The coffee clutch.
Yeah, with those people.
Yep.
Find your 20.
Find your 20. That's another great one.
And be 100% focused on what you can give to these people before you start thinking about what you're going to get.
Yeah, that'd be the big point for me if I had and jumped onto what you said was givers gain, have that mentality. You're going to learn a lot more about not only just getting leads, you're going to learn about running a business and being a business if you really are out there and trying to be intentional with your networking.
And then the last thing I would have to throw in there is know who it is that you're looking for. You're looking for those connectors, possibly the Maven, but you're looking for those referral sources. You're not there to sell. You're there to build your extended sales force.
So in summary, go out there and network to grow your net worth. Make it a great day, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember, your positive attitude will help you achieve that higher altitude you're looking for in the wild world of small business ownership. And until next time, make it a great day.